You're listening to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. I am your host, Shawn, senior editor here at Post-Apocalyptic Media, and this is episode number 97. So 97, we're so close to 100. I almost guarantee that we will hit 100 in 2023. That's my guarantee to you, that we will hit, unless, something happens. You never know. Well, as you may know, last week I didn't do an episode, mainly because there just wasn't a lot out there to do. And also, pre-holiday stuff getting pretty busy. But this week there's a lot to talk about. And I guess we could start out with talking about the real life apocalypse that's about to happen in this part of the United States. Where I live in the southeastern United States, and we're about to hit record cold. And most of you will laugh at this. It's supposed to hit 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I know. I hear all the Canadians out there laughing. I know 7 degrees Fahrenheit is not that cold. It is cold when you live in an area where your pipes aren't insulated and stuff like that. So we're doing a lot of prep work, and it makes me think of, all the movies I've watched and all the things and just prepping in general. Getting ready for this. It might seem silly, I'm sure, but today I had to get about 10 gallons of water saved up in the house and ready for, drinking water and, everything you use water for, because our pipes will freeze. Our pipes always freeze when it gets below 20 Fahrenheit, our pipes freeze. So it's kind of one of those things. Also, we have animals. We have cows, goats, chickens, turkeys, all that kind of stuff here on the farm. So I had to get a bunch of water ready for them and put it in our greenhouse, because our greenhouse actually gets warmer than anywhere else. Once the sun gets out, it'll get 80 degrees in the greenhouse when it's, 30 degrees outside. So that's the plan. Everyone, cross your fingers and toes for me and and everyone, of course, everyone around here. But just north of us is supposed to be kind of the next level of winter apocalypse, which is snow. There's supposed to be tons and tons of snow this week. Definitely a white Christmas for everyone who's been asking for that. Thank you very much. And we're not supposed to get a white Christmas, but we will get a cold, bitter, bitter cold Christmas. And the big thing here is, when it doesn't get above freezing for like 3 days straight, that's a problem, because we have, the animals don't have water, the cows, everything. I have to go out there and basically pour water over the ice and then hope they drink it before it freezes. It's kind of crazy. It's animals are not smart when it comes to things like that. So we also have a stream running through our property, so I'm hoping that doesn't freeze so that they can drink from that. But anyway, that's enough of my real life prepping stuff here. Let's talk about some, fictional stuff, right? Some stuff that's going on in the world of post-apocalyptic media. So much that I can't even say it. So we have a few things that hit this week. Number one, there's more information about The Last of Us that keeps coming out. The Last of Us, of course, is coming out on HBO Max on January 15th, which is only a couple weeks away. It's 3 weeks away, right? Little more than 3 weeks away. So, that is going to be huge. That's going to be one of the big shows of the next few months, probably the last few months, I would say. Get it? The Last of Us. Last few. Anyway, so that's going to be a big one. I'm sure we're going to cover that a lot on the site. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it, and I don't even play the games, right? I don't have a PlayStation 4 or 5. So I think it was an exclusive. Now it's on PC, but I'm pretty sure. But I haven't played them. But from what I've seen, coming from a fresh perspective, someone who hasn't played the games, the show itself, removing all that game element looks really cool. And I'm a big fan of Pedro Pascal. Mandalorian, and Bella Ramsey from Game of Thrones. Her character, I know I've talked about this before, but her character on Game of Thrones is one of my favorites. Such a great personality, and I'm excited to see all this kind of come together on The Last of Us. So that's big for the next few weeks. We've also had some coverage of Chainsaw Man, which, another one of those that I haven't watched because I'm not really an anime fan, but it is huge. Like, when these new post-apocalyptic animes come out, it is huge for our site. We get tons of traffic, and so Stephanie's kind of our resident anime expert, and so she's been writing a lot about Chainsaw Man. So definitely check that out. It's all over the site. You could read more about it than I could ever say about it, that's for sure. And Tina's been doing a lot of great book reviews. She did Burrowed, which is a brand new book. I don't think it's even come out yet. I think she had like kind of an advanced copy or something, and she did a review of that. She also did she's doing the Black Rock Shooter Downfall recaps and reviews. So if you're into that, check that out as well. We also have this is kind of cool. So we have a few gift guides, right? It's probably, we're like a week before, and this is from last week, so I'm late on this. But there's some gift guides for Christmas. There's a top 10 best post-apocalyptic board game gift ideas for Christmas that Val wrote up. I'm a huge board game fan, and I love this list. I looked at this and I said, yes, this is a good list. There's some really good ones on here. Radlands, I love that game. I got it on Kickstarter 2 years ago, I think it was. It's a single player board game, but it's really cool. And Fallout, the board game, really great. Armageddon, that is a great game. There's also Fallout Shelter, the board game, which I haven't played yet. That sounds kind of cool. Dead of Winter is a big one. So yeah, check that out. That little list of best post-apocalyptic board games. But also, she did another one a couple days ago for best last-minute Christmas gifts for preppers and survivalists. And it's, exclusively on Amazon Prime. So if you are, shopping, looking for that last minute gift. Now, the only thing is, I think right now, like as of the time you hear this, I don't think you'll get it in time for Christmas because of, even Amazon Prime can't turn back time. And they used to deliver in 2 days, didn't they? I don't think they do that anymore. Anyway, so there's a great article on last minute gifts. It includes Permanent Match, which looks really cool. This is again all survival gear. Luminade solar inflatable lanterns. Those are always fun. Hang them inside your tent and they illuminate the whole thing. But they're all solar powered, so it's very cool. Tiny survival guide. Life Straw personal water filter. Now I have a bunch of those. They go on sale. Usually Black Friday they'll have a sale on those, and I'll pick up a few of those. Those are always good to have. Emergency survival kits, first aid kits. There's tons of those on Amazon. The only thing you have to watch with those is sometimes they'll throw in like a cheap knife or a cheap multi-tool, and those will break. But the other stuff, it doesn't matter. Like cotton swabs and like your survival cord and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of basic wherever you go, so getting a cheap version isn't that bad. But very cool. A few more things on here. Mylar blankets, emergency wind-up battery radio, which I have one of those too. Those are very cool, like a weather radio. So yeah, check out Val's list of that on the site. If you are a prepper or someone who is a prepper and just would love to have this kind of stuff, good information, that's for sure. All right, now let's get into peeing. Yeah, I said it. So here's the thing. So there's a Norman Reedus game. Norman Reedus, of course, plays Daryl on The Walking Dead. There's a game that stars the face and voice of Norman Reedus, and it's called Death Stranding. Now, it's been a big hit. It came out in 2019. It's a fun game. It's a little weird, but it's basically a game about being a courier in the apocalypse. You're delivering packages and doing things like that, and you meet some really interesting people. and other things you meet that are exciting. So Death Stranding is a crazy game, and they're going to make a movie out of it. And the reason I say peeing is because there's a part in the game, I don't think this is a spoiler alert, where you have to throw pee grenades, basically, at these ghosts. I won't get into it because it's, might change the rating of this podcast, but it's a thing. And it's a weird game, and I'm really looking forward to the movie. I hope it gets as weird as the, as the game. One can hope, right? We'll see what they do with it. There's another little piece here where we have some news about the 40th anniversary of Fist of the North Star. Fist of the North Star, of course, it's a manga, and I believe they made an anime out of it too, didn't they? Yeah, but it's this 40th anniversary, which is crazy. So let's do the math. 40 years ago, what was 40 years ago? 1992. Wow, that's crazy. I was in high school in 1992. All right, I'm gonna need a moment. Okay. So another little piece of news here that I think is interesting. I love when the post-apocalyptic genre kind of mixes in with stuff you wouldn't expect. Like there is a zombie apocalyptic love story. Well, I'll let all that sink in first. Play, like a theatrical play, and it's called Blood Supply, which is a cool name. It's going to be at Theater 68 Arts Complex in Los Angeles from January 20th to February 11th. It says here that it is here's the description they say about it, right? Abandoned due to her blindness by a group of survivors she once called family, Sadie must learn to trust again when she stumbles into Harold, a self-loathing microbiologist with a sickening secret. Meanwhile, Sadie's former family members come into the service of a charismatic actor turned junkyard dictator, and quickly learn that his plan for saving humanity may prove more toxic than The Walking Dead. And they don't capitalize Walking Dead, so they don't have to put like a trademark in there. The Walking Dead meaning like zombies, right? So I think that's interesting, and I would love to see how they're going to do this in a theatrical environment. That's pretty cool. Especially like the junkyard dictator. Are they going to have a whole junkyard up on stage? I want to see that. So I'm excited to see kind of where this goes and how it's received, I guess. It's such a big thing right now. I actually just saw an article not too long ago about the most popular novel themes, genres, stuff like that. And so number one is science fiction. Dystopia was like number 6. Anthologies, it was like number 5. It was up there. So no, I think actually dystopia was like number 3. It was way up there. But anyway, so I mean, we're in the right thing here, right? The right business. So you have science fiction, dystopia, anthologies. You have all this stuff that we're talking about all the time is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that could be a whole show on its own. Like, why is it getting bigger? You would think that after basically a pandemic, that people would be sick of that, but I think people are actually more intrigued by it. They say that post-apocalyptic stories, novels, have skyrocketed in the last 2 years. People are staying home, and they're interested in reading about what's going on, right? Or the possibility of what if this pandemic turns into something that wipes out humanity. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of strange because it's like you wouldn't expect that, but at the same time, it makes sense, right? So, yeah. So now I just have to finish all the book ideas I have in my head and get those out there today, right? Yesterday. I need to get those out yesterday. Okay, let's look at some of the other stuff we have going on in the post-apocalyptic realm. I did a YouTube roundup on today, the day I'm recording this, which is Wednesday. It has some really great, some movies, short films. It has a full movie in there called Glass House from 2021. There's like a recap of it. So this is a pretty popular thing, actually. You'll find a lot of YouTubers who will do a recap of a movie, and they'll show, I don't know how they get away with it actually, but they'll show footage from the movie, and then they will recap what it's, it's like Cliff Notes. Remember Cliff Notes back, in the 90s and 80s? It's basically Cliff Notes in a YouTube version. Now, if you don't want to have spoilers, then I wouldn't watch this video, but it's the first video in my YouTube roundup for this week, Glass House 2021. I haven't seen it, but from what I've watched, I feel like I've seen it because I watched this recap. But from what I've watched in this video, it seems like something I would definitely want to check out. It's weird. It's kind of crazy. So that's right up my alley. And then, of course, we have another trailer from The Last of Us. But this is a fan-made trailer. They call it like a creative concept, I think is what they call it. Where concept trailers, where they take footage from other trailers and other videos we've seen, plus footage from other movies that these actors have been in, and they kind of cut it up and they make a new trailer. It's pretty interesting. It's really well done. This YouTube channel called Teaser Pro, they make these all the time, and it's pretty good. You have to check that out. Another movie, this is a full movie called American Apocalypse. It's a horror apocalypse movie. So if you're into horror and you're also into apocalyptic stuff, which, I totally am, this is it's low budget-ish. It's kind of low mid budget, but it's really well done. I don't know. I liked it. I like low budget though anyway, so that helps. Then we have a couple games in here. We have a video from Derelicts, Derelicts. That is it's an upcoming game that looks, I don't know, it looks like a mix between Icarus and a little bit of Raft. But you're building your survival shelter, and you're surviving, but then there's these crazy you remember The Ring, where that girl would crawl around on all fours and kind of scare the beep out of you? That's what this is like. These creatures that they show in this trailer, they crawl around like that. And then there's one scene where it looks like they injured one of these creatures and it's crawling away, and there's like a trail of blood behind it. Pretty freaky. But there's spacecraft, all of that kind of stuff, but it's crashed on this planet, and so you're surviving on this planet. It's a survival game, it's a building game, but also you're fighting. There's a lot of fighting, combat, and stuff like that. Hunting too, they have that. So it looks very Icarus-like, but it looks really cool. I added it to my Steam wish list as soon as I watched this video. And another one actually that I added is called Lost World. Now, Lost World, I mentioned how Derelicts looked kind of like Raft. Well, Lost World is a Raft clone. That's the nicest way to say it. It is exactly, you have the same hook. Exactly the same hook that you're throwing out in the water and grabbing debris and bringing it back. Now, I don't know if Lost World goes as deep as Raft does. Raft isn't just a game about throwing a hook out and grabbing junk, which I thought at first. I was like, wow, that's a cool game. You grab junk out of the water and you build a floating fortress out of it, right? That's good enough for me right there. That's kind of all I would need, right? So it looks like Lost World is very similar to that. They show a lot of the building, but they also show a little tiny hint at a storyline. And I think Raft, the big surprise about Raft was that it has a very deep storyline that goes a lot further. When someone told me, I think I was streaming, and I think one of the viewers on our stream told me, hey, have you gotten into the storyline yet? And I'm like, storyline? What? So Raft, if you haven't played Raft, you have to check that out if you're a gamer. But Lost World looks very similar to that. I'm excited to see how it does. I guess interested would be a better word. I'm interested to see how it does. And I'd be excited to see if it goes further than Raft or if it doesn't go as far. I think so far it actually looks better than Raft. Raft is a little cartoony, a little stylized, I think would be a good description of it, which is, that's timeless. When you make something stylized, it doesn't have to look realistic. But Lost World, the water and underwater looks way more real than raft. So that it has that going for it, right? What else do I have on here? Well, there's a video from Wasteland Weekend 2022, which happened, back in September, October. And this is a part 2 of this video from this guy, The Richter Show is this channel. And so he basically walks around and he takes, kind of a view, like a selfie view, I guess you could call it, where he's in the foreground and the stuff going on is in the background. And he shows a lot of what happens day and night at Wasteland Weekend. Very cool stuff. I miss Wasteland Weekend so much. When he showed the car parade, I was like, oh, I need to go back. But, it's far. It's out in California. So yeah, check that out. Check out his part 1 too. He has a video on part 1. Very, very cool stuff. I love any video that has to do with Wasteland Weekend. I'll usually put it in here and kind of, show it off. So there's that. All right. So what else do we have on the site? We have some crazy, what we call IRL apocalypse news. This first one is about a parasite that they found in wolves in Yellowstone that actually caused these animals to not have fear for humans and not have fear for bigger predators. They found the same parasite in other animals too. Like they found it in hyenas who aren't afraid of lions, which could be bad for the hyenas, right? And that's kind of the main thing about this is it removes the fear from these animals, and actually humans have it too. Well, I'll get to that in a second because that's scary. But it removes fear from these animals. These wolves, if you know anything about like a wolf pack, it has to have an alpha, right? There has to be an alpha male, and he has to be the leader, and like what he says goes, right? Or what he barks goes, what he howls goes. And when that falls apart, when all the wolves want to be alpha and they all just fight each other for alpha, and then they get to the point where they just abandon the pack falls apart and they could die. If there's no structure, it gets to be kind of scary. So you have that parasite is doing this to these wolves, and it's also doing it to monkeys, which is Planet of the Apes, right? We're going to have like fearless monkeys, which we already have. I mean, we've had a lot of stories from the last couple of years of monkeys going into, like, especially in India and Africa, where they'll go into villages and just start like stealing babies and throwing. Like, there's one where these dogs and these monkeys had a war, and this is real life, and they fought, and then one of the monkeys took a dog up to the top of a high building or something and threw it off. That's crazy, right? This is scary stuff. Like, a lot of us we read it and we're like, wow, that's crazy. Well, oh, it's in India. Okay. I don't have to worry about it, but it's real, And so I think that this parasite, and what's it called? It's called, let's see if I can pronounce this. It's like where is it? I know I saw it somewhere. Toxoplasma gondii, something like that. It's a parasite that they have discovered is causing a lot of problems with these animals. I mean, just imagine, the natural order of things, or mice are afraid of cats. Well, no longer, because now the mice think they can kill the cats, and so they rise up against the cats, and what's going to happen there. So I think that's the scary part. The whole pack falling apart is scary. There's also evidence that this parasite is causing miscarriages in a lot of these animals. So there's, a birth rate problem. But here's the scary part. Here's the thing that I think is probably the icing on top of this, is that it's actually scientists say it's in 33% of humans. And that's more than 10% of the U.S. population are already infected. So we as humans, we may have this already, especially it reproduces in cats. So they think that people who are around, big cats or, wild cats, that they may be exposed to it and they may have it. No, all it does is it really causes like flu-like symptoms in humans. But it's been linked with increased testosterone and just wild behavioral changes. right? So I think that's interesting. I think this is, this isn't a science podcast, although I do love science and I love talking about it. But this is crazy stuff. We talk about post-apocalyptic real life stuff and fictional. Well, this is definitely more on the fiction turned to nonfiction. So it's scary stuff. Yeah. So I found that story. I figured I'd write about it because it's strange, but also scary, right? Very scary. All right, I'm going to end this podcast with a little bit of news from a South Korean movie that's coming out on January 20th called Jung-E. It's like Jung-E. It's not even dash, I think it's like an underscore. Which the first thing I thought of when I saw this, if you put an L where the underscore is, then you have jungle, right? I don't know. So it's a little side note. But it's from the director of Train to Busan, right? Is it Train to? Yeah, it's Train to Busan. It's the same guy who did that. Let's see if I can pronounce his name. Young Sang-ho, I think. But it started. Okay, so here's the thing about this. It's a story about an AI who rises up. They create this AI to be a super soldier. And the person who's creating this AI, super soldier, is basically using her mother's brain, because they're making like an artificial intelligence brain, to go in this super soldier, this AI combat warrior. That's interesting. It's very Terminator, which of course is post-apocalyptic. This is supposed to be after an apocalypse, like a viral apocalypse. So we have that aspect of it. South Korean movies have been doing really great and this is coming to Netflix too. So they've been doing really well on Netflix. So we have that to look forward to. And one kind of crazy note here is there's a South Korean actress who's in this. Her name is Kang Soo-yeon, I think. I'm forgive all of my bad pronunciation. But she's the main character, and she actually the actress herself died not long after filming stopped. I think filming stopped in January, and she died in May. So this is her last film. This is the final film, and she's an esteemed actress in South Korea. So this is kind of a big deal. We have the director himself, who's done a lot of great stuff. We have the fact that this is her last film, and then we have just the fact that it's about AI. I mean, let's face it, AI is big news right now. This is kind of a side note, but we've been talking about AI art for a while on the site, on the podcast. And I think that right now, that in the last week, there's been such an uprising of artists against AI that it's almost like we're going to get to the point where political, people are running for office. They're going to have to start bringing up AI issues, because I think it's going to just keep getting kind of out of hand until someone does something about it. So I don't know. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I'm actually kind of both, so there's that. But I think that it's a crazy thing. And this movie coming out, featuring AI as kind of the main component of it, I think that's interesting. So I'd like to know what everyone thinks. If you want to leave a comment, I'd like to know what you think about AI art, AI writing. Some of that stuff is scary. Some of it is just absolutely incredible and intriguing. But where do we go from here, right? What's going to happen with this? Especially with it taking bits and pieces from other stuff and not really creating its own thing, but just taking pieces and putting it together. It's crazy stuff. So yeah, I'm sure I'll talk about that again in another episode. Maybe I'll do an entire episode on AI. Maybe I'll get someone on here to talk with about AI. It's a revolutionary idea. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening to me ramble on about the week's news. This weekend is Christmas, and whatever holiday you celebrate. I mean, today that I'm recording this is winter solstice. All the winter holidays kind of happen toward the end of this month, most of them. And I just want to say, whatever you celebrate, I wish you the best, and take it easy, right? Take it easy during this holiday time. If you're in this winter storm and you're in the U.S., in the eastern U.S., be careful. As I always say, stay alive out there, right? And always be ready for the big one, the big storm, that is. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.